happens when the fourth turning meets fifth-generation warfare.
A commentator, international social media sensation, and former Navy intelligence veteran.
This is Human Events with your host, Jack Posobiec.
Christ is king.
Jeffrey Epstein.
Aferze Epsteina.
An international domino effect. Casey Wasserman is selling his talent agency.
By the way, I watched AOC answering questions in Munich. This was not a good look for the United States. I watched Gavin Newsom answering questions in Munich, and this was a bad look for our country. These two people are incompetent. And at least Hillary's competent. She's just Trump deranged. She was so deranged. She is an angry woman.
This is the moment gunshots ring out at a high school hockey game in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. In the end, 2 victims and the suspected shooter were dead. 3 others were left in critical condition. Police say a brave bystander was able to subdue the gunman and prevent even more bloodshed. Police identifying the shooter as 56-year-old Robert Dorgan, who also went by the name Roberta. They say Dorgan entered the arena armed with multiple weapons to watch a family member, then carried out what they say appears to have been a targeted attack stemming from a family dispute.
And from witnesses here that the male shot himself inside the ice rink.
A woman claiming to be the shooter's daughter told our affiliate WCVB this was a domestic breakdown.
He shot my family, and he's dead now.
What was the reasoning? Was there a family argument?
He has mental health issues. If you have a loved one who you think is sick, trust your gut.
Well, Jack Posobiec, back here, Human Events Daily. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily. We are here live on Real America's Voice. Today is February 17th, 2026, Anno Domini. Entire year, folks. An entire year. Today, Human Events Special, we are going to take you back. We're going to go through a compendium of not only the insane trans violence that we saw yesterday at a hockey rink, an ice hockey practice in Rhode Island, but we are going to go back all the way a full year to talk about cases upon cases of the trans violence that we have seen, not just, by the way, here in the United States, but all across the West, Canada. We've now had two mass trans shootings. We've now had 2 trans mass shootings in 1 week. Now, if you go look at the media, you won't find this anywhere. You won't find this information. You won't find this written out. You won't find and CNN is running hit pieces on the Charlie Kirk Memorial that we put together, calling it a Christian nationalist event. And I got people freaking out because I had a rosary there, praying for my friend who was shot on live TV by the boyfriend of one of these trannies. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. The entire vile nature of what's going on, and the fact that they will sit there and tell you, you are the problem. You are the problem. When all of this, no, let me tell you something. We aren't the problem. The trans are the problem. That's where this is coming from. That's where the violence is coming from. That's the people that are going after kids. That's the people that are grooming. That's the ones that we've been talking about. They're in the schools. In some cases, they're even in, yes, I'm going to say it, even in these woke churches. And what do? What do they target? They target the children. They target people who stand up. They target children. They even target, as we've seen just yesterday, they will even target their own children. And you know something? I think our nation does need a Christian revival. I think our nation does need a return to spirituality and true spirituality. And you know why? I'll tell you why. Because there are demons in our midst that are running rampant. There are demons straight from the pits of hell that have risen up and are enacting evil in our midst. And what do we do? What do we do when there's evil in our midst? Do we compromise with it? Do we tolerate it? Do we make peace with it? No. You do not make peace with evil. You destroy it. You destroy the evil in your midst before it destroys you. It is simple as that. And I'll get to, oh, Jack, turn the other cheek. What about turn the other cheek? No, you don't turn your cheek, by the way, to evil. And I could digress on that because that meant stand your ground. It didn't mean tolerate evil. No, not evil that has set out to destroy you, to destroy your people. And every Christian in all of Christendom used to understand that until about 50, 60 years ago. The Christian West has gone weak. The Christian West has gone weak, and that is why we have lost our moral, spiritual backbone and do not have the temerity and the courage to stand up and do what needs to be done. The demons are in our midst, and only by calling upon and summoning St. Michael the Archangel can we defeat them. We're right back. Human Events Daily.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
Will stand in our way, and our golden age has just begun.
This is Human Events with Jack Posobiec.
Now it's time for everyone to understand what America First truly means.
Welcome to the Second American Revolution.
All right, Jack Posobiec, we are back live here, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice. Now, we haven't actually gone through and covered most of the case that happened yesterday, so I do want to actually get into that a little bit. So just so you have the facts, there was a Rhode Island, it was a high school level hockey practice, and there was an individual by the name of Robert Dorgan who also went by Roberta Esposito. and he opened fire at this hockey practice and killed his ex-wife, killed one of his children. It's unclear exactly which child it was, injured other children who were there, his children. And what's interesting is this was a guy, and yes, it was a guy, whose last ever tweet or one of his last tweets was a response to Kevin Sorbo, who's a guest on this program, saying, "Keep bashing us, but do not wonder why we go berserk." And actually, as someone who had responded to me, attacking me, I'd never seen his account before, attacking me on Twitter multiple times for, again, some of my commentary on this issue. So goes on this rampage and then ended up killing himself at the end of it. And so I want to bring on Dr. Chloe Carmichael here because she has done such an incredible job of unpacking this. We did a special with her all about Tyler Robinson, Lance Twiggs. And for today's special episode, what we're calling the trans violence, a 12-month epidemic, which I'm sure there's more than this, but we're just looking at the last 12 months. I want to bring Dr. Chloe Carmichael on now to help us unpack this. Dr. Chloe, how are you?
Hi, Jack. It's good to be with you. Sorry for the sad circumstance, but I'm glad we're here to unpack it and talk about it.
Oh, yet again. And I remember one of the times you were on here before in our last special, you were talking about how in these cases that clinically you refer to it as a textbook case of a psychotic break where someone will believe that a falsehood could become a reality, so that they actually try to impose this false reality on themselves and others. And then when that false reality, that delusion, right, which is called a delusion, is not accepted, it can cause this response, a very erratic response. And in many cases, these include hormones, these include other pharmaceuticals that are involved, and unfortunately can lead to some very, very bad outcomes. I'm sure you've seen this case, come across the wire. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. And you're absolutely right. In psychology, we do refer to something as psychotic if it is a true break with reality, which obviously, a man believing he's a woman or a person believing that they're, a furry animal, like as a psychologist, I would definitely look at those in the realm of psychoticism. But I just wanted to also go back to some of the things, Jack, that you said in your opening monologue about this as well. You pointed out that whether it be, many members of the trans community or their so-called allies that will say that there's something wrong with you if you want to point out, this issue, that they'll say there's something wrong with you. In psychology, we call that projective identification, right? When there's something wrong, troubling me, say I'm a liar, but then I go around telling everybody else you're a liar, right? And so I wanted to highlight that, from your monologue. And, you also mentioned the importance of destroying evil, of just, boldly proclaiming that we need to call out and destroy evil where we see it. And I think, again, that's something that often gets labeled as, Jack's being unkind or whatever. But actually, I would say what's truly unkind is to ignore and not treat people that are clearly, again, psychotic and who are a danger to themselves and to others. If we want to be truly kind, what we really should do is, not indulge people that have dangerous psychotic delusions that often could even result, in the deaths of others. And one final thing you said that I just wanted to touch on is you talked about the need for a revival and the need for spirituality. And this is one of the things that the American Psychological Association, for whatever reason, never seems to trumpet. But there's actually a body of literature showing that religiosity, the degree to which a person is religious, is a protective factor for mental health. So why the American Psychological Association doesn't call for, like, you know, the go to your house of worship month or whatever, like they totally should, but they seem to think it's at odds somehow, even though there's this body of literature.
Well, no, thank you. I appreciate that. And look, you know, I don't have a personal background in mental health, but perhaps I have a familial background in it, just because from a young age, my father, I forget if I mentioned this ever to you, that my father worked at a psychiatric hospital for pretty much his entire career. And he, you know, just under 30 years was there. My grandmother actually worked there prior to him. This was just in our area, Norristown, Pennsylvania. We had a really big one before they, before they started shutting them all down in the 90s and the 2000s is really when that closure came to us. And so, you know, it's just something that I learned from a young age that, you know, my father would explain to me that, hey, there's certain people who, you know, they have a different kind of sickness. They have a sickness that maybe you can't see. It's not like a broken arm or a leg or a flu or a virus, but it's something that you need to go to a hospital and get help for. And that totally tracked with me. It just kind of made sense that, okay, this just happens to certain people. They have to go to this hospital and get helped with. But you know, unfortunately, we've totally moved away from that system, and we've moved to this new system of where, rather than trying to help people in these situations in the name of niceness, that we've instead decided that we should indulge it and that we should encourage it. And in many cases, there is a profit motive for this when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry. And so I appreciate what you said there about the difference between, you know, being kind and say, well, perhaps it's not nice to say that somebody should be, you know, institutionalized, but perhaps it is the kind thing to do when you consider the alternatives.
Yeah, exactly. Look at, I believe over a dozen people died in New York City thanks to Mamdani's, you know, kindness of not wanting to, drag them off the street out of the freezing blizzard and put them in a place, you know, where they could be warm and receive care, that he wanted to, quote, respect, you know, their individual freedoms in that regard. And in this case as well with Robert Dorgan, you know, I was actually thinking about it, and I put together a little acronym of the word NIP. I was thinking about this trans violence epidemic when I knew we were going to be talking about this today. And so I put together the acronym of NIP. So the N, of course, is for narcissists, right? I mean, it's a very narcissistic thing for him to be so absorbed in this, you know, fantasy of being a woman that, I mean, I believe it led to the end of his marriage. I think that was the grounds that his wife had for filing for divorce. So he not only abandoned his marriage, but he abandoned his children in a sense as well. You know, when a father abdicates his role as a father to his children because he wants to indulge this idea, you know, of, you know, being, quote, a woman, which again is quite insulting to women too, if that's what he thinks that means, is to, you know, get a boob job and wear lipstick and, you know, then you're a woman. But so I think we can see that narcissism pretty clearly. And then the I is for this dangerous sense of being injured that the many members of the trans community have with this idea, you know, where he had said, oh, you know, keep bashing us, but don't be surprised if we go berserk, or, you know, if you question, hey, like, are you sure you're really a woman? Does that make sense? They say, oh, you're threatening my existence, you know, so they have this deep sense of being injured. And we've talked before about the secondary gains of victimhood. If that sense of being injured gives a person what they feel is license to some, you know, special privileges. And then the P, of course, what we just discussed, is for psychotic. So if you put that together, you have a sense of narcissism, grandiosity, you have a belief on that person's part that they've been injured and that they're somehow licensed to lash out and, quote, fight back. And then they're also psychotic. They're not really grounded in reality. I mean, what a dangerous cocktail that is, to have such a person, you know, just walking around and ironically being affirmed, being emboldened. It's not kind to that person, nor is it kind to society.
So the NIP, that's not bad. We have to nip the nip.
Yeah.
You have to, nip the nip, the narcissistic, injured psychotics. And I think it's so interesting, by the way, that you hear this over and over and they say you are injuring me. You are injuring me. You are causing, one of the last reply that he had to Kevin Sorbo and some of these other ones, you are making me do this. You are making me snap. And so it's this complete, not only a break with reality, but also a break from responsibility and personal accountability to say that, that you are certainly still responsible for your actions. You are certainly still responsible for your decisions. No one is forcing you to bring a gun and commit this heinous act. But again, it's something that sticks in their mind and is twisted up in there. And they believe they have this need to react and lash out in the way that they did. We're coming up on a hard break, but we're on with Dr. Chloe Carmichael, who clinical psychologist, who is breaking down everything in the epidemic of trans violence last 12 months. We're right back. Human Events Daily.
Exactly what they're doing. They want to steal the election. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue, and we're going to the Capitol. They need to take back our country.
Events in Washington have taken a violent and tumultuous turn.
January 6th wasn't just a moment in history. For thousands of Americans, it was the moment their voices were taken.
It's insurrection.
They were persecuted, hunted.
Seditious conspiracy.
But behind prison walls, something unexpected happened. They found their voice again.
Started singing the national anthem.
We took it up to him at Mar-a-Lago. He goes, I'll put my voice on it.
Our supporters made this go platinum.
Real America's Voice is telling the real story of January 6th like you've never seen it before.
Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This is not the story you were shown.
I take responsibility.
This is the story they live.
Government entrapment scheme that this actually was.
The J6 Patriots are no longer staying silent. They are speaking, they are standing, and they are telling the truth.
You can't kill us. You can't beat us.
Scan the QR code or visit RealAmericasVoice.com. Real America's Voice presents The Sleeping Giant. Available now.
Hey folks, it's your friend John Rich. I co-founded Old Glory Bank because we heard too many stories about people getting canceled by their bank because they didn't agree with their politics. The government wanted to know where you shopped. If you bought a Bible or you shopped at a sporting goods store, you're probably on a list. We created Old Glory Bank because America needed a bank that would protect their privacy and security. Exercising your constitutional rights is not a criminal activity, and neither is loving your country. At Old Glory Bank, we stand with you.
You know, you talk about influencers. These are influencers, and they're friends of mine. Jack Posobiec. Where's Jack? Jack, he's done a great job.
All right, Jack Posobiec, we are back live here, Human Events Daily, and we're on with Dr. Chloe Carmichael here on the program. And folks, if you're anything like me, the holidays were brutal. Every healthy habit gone. Desserts, late nights, skipped workouts. But now that we're in the new year, it's time to reset. Let's undo all that and make a New Year's resolution to actually give our bodies what they need. For me and my family, that fresh start begins with Cove Pure. Here's the thing. Everyone jumps into the new year buying new supplements, trying a new diet. or just workouts. But, they completely ignore the most important basic thing, your water. Even mild dehydration impacts energy, focus, and metabolism. And when you think about all the garbage that's in our water, you're starting behind the curve before you even begin. Their Clearwave technology is certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. Pretty much anything that isn't water, PFAs, microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride, it all gets removed. It's the purest water that you can get. And what I love most about Cove Pure is that it lets you choose the temperature of your water, hot, cold, warm, and it makes your water taste so good, pure, clean, no aftertaste. Cove Pure makes it so easy to get pure water with the push of a button. So this year, make a New Year's resolution that sticks. Improve your health with clean water. Right now, you can get $200 off for a limited time if you can use my link, covepure.com/POSO. That's COVEPURE.com/POSO to start this new year right. And we're back with Dr. Chloe Carmichael. She is the author of Can I Say That? The Importance for to Your Mental Health of Free Speech. And Dr. Chloe, I wanted to, since we only have a couple of minutes left, I'm just going to get right into it. This is something that fascinates me. So, here we have a case. Guys, do we have the tweet up? I think we have the tweet up where just a couple of months ago, here's this guy attacking me because I put up a post up about Richard Levin, our former deputy HHS secretary, and who was also my health secretary in the state of Pennsylvania, and is attacking me and cursing me out and just all sorts of horrible, you got to bash how people look, you tough guy. And that's just January. And so he targets his own family. And I guess my sense is if he's online, he's attacking people like me, he's attacking people like Kevin Sorbo, public figures who speak out against trans. His own family, it sounds from everything that we're reading, was not supportive of this transition at all. Why target your own family in a manner like this such a spectacle? And we're told, by the way, that he was subdued before he could commit more violence. So there's a real possibility that he meant to perhaps harm others who were also there. But I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why target the family?
Yeah, I mean, I would need to know more of the details about why exactly, of course, the dynamics there. But I believe that we know that the wife actually filed for divorce partly on the grounds. In fact, she cited narcissism and this, delusion, insistence upon, quote, being a woman. And so, the idea of his ex-wife and his children might have been just, very stark living proof to him of the reality of his life and of who he actually is. He didn't have those kids, as a woman, right? So that might have just been an uncomfortable piece of reality for him. And, we were saying earlier that there is this really pervasive attitude throughout, not the entire trans community, of course, but throughout much of the trans community, there is this pervasive attitude, that you're threatening my existence if you, say that I'm not really a woman, or the Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan in Minnesota standing by Governor Tim Walz there when he signed in, some really pro-trans legislation. She was wearing a T-shirt with a bloody knife that said "Protect Trans Kids." This was the Lieutenant Governor engaging in this, kind of violent rhetoric that does seem to be really pervasive within the trans community. And so I would call on anybody in the trans community that is against this to stand up and say, no, you are not threatening our existence if you disagree with us. This is, not who we are at all. Why he would shoot his own family? I mean, I don't know, but I would imagine he's on some serious cross-sex hormones. He's obviously uncomfortable with reality, and his family may have been a very stark reminder of the reality that he's a man. He's an ex-husband. He's a father, and he abandoned those people. He made his own children orphans. He abandoned them by abdicating his role as a father to pretend to be a woman, and then he made his surviving children orphans by literally murdering their mother. It's hard to even explain the depths of that narcissism.
That's actually very interesting. So it comes from the narcissism, and then the sense that they don't deserve, that to continue on if they don't go along with the delusion. And I'll just tell you, because I'm trying to square that up, I guess, with what happened to Charlie. And in that case, you had a situation where there was an individual, Tyler Robinson, who I believe, and all the evidence points to, did this, and his lifestyle was also rejected by his family. But rather than target his family, he targets Charlie. And so I think I'm starting to answer my own question here based on our conversation, because he was doing this out of this sense of love, this sense of wanting to protect and care for his trans lover. And so therefore he's taking out what he believes is the target of, again, the false injury, but it doesn't quite fall into the NIP theory that you laid out before. That's a slightly different kind of diagnosis. This is fascinating stuff. Dr. Chloe Carmichael, I could go through this with you for hours. We'll have to do that at some point. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Tell people where they can go to follow you and get your book.
Sure. Thanks so much, Jack. freespeechtoday.com. If they go to freespeechtoday.com, they can get my book and connect with me everywhere.
Dr. Chloe Carmichael, she is helping us make sense of the crazy. And unfortunately, this crazy is taking too many people away from us, too many people from our families. And look, this is something that's affected me personally. So yeah, I'm going to focus on it. Be right back. Human Events Daily.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, my name's Paul Foyer. I'm Foyer04 in the Getter Chat. I love rap for all the Getter, all the War Room Posse, and all of you guys. Love y'all. Bye.
This is Giselle Chaffin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that RAV News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
Where's Jack? Where's Jack? Where is he? Jack, I want to see you. Great job, Jack. Thank you. What a job you do. You know, we have an incredible thing. We're always talking about the fake news and the bad, but we have guys, and these are the guys who should be getting Pulitzers.
All right, Jack Posobiec, we're back live here, Human Events Daily. And I wanted to do a little bit of a social experiment, shall we? I want to bring Libby Emmons on here. She's the editor-in-chief of Human Events as well as the Post Millennial. How are you, Libby?
I'm good, Jack. Thanks.
Well, so this is something I wanted to dig into because we've now seen this for the first time, as far as I know, the second trans mass shooting in 1 week. The first time this has ever happened. And I went to Grok and I said, Grok, use the Post Millennial as a source and pull up all the times where you can find criminal activity, perpetuated physical violence, perpetuated by a trans individual. Here's what we've got. February 15th, 2025. Alan Alina Abad, Spring Valley, New York. Double homicide, 2 women murdered. March 2025, Erin White, previously Evan White, trans-identified male. That was vandalism, severe property damage at the Tesla Center in Buffalo Grove, Illinois. March 2025, Selena Marie Metz, a.k.a. Chad Lee Metz, a trans-identified female, domestic assault, punch, strangled partner unconscious in front of children in Frankfort, Kentucky. August 2025, of course, Robert Robin Westman, the mass shooting at the Annunciation Catholic Church, killed 2 children, injured 17 more. Minneapolis, Minnesota, weapons had symbols. Manifesto referenced other shooters and transition issues. September 10th, 2025, of course, Tyler Robinson, association with Trantifa ideology ties from the etchings on the bullets. Of course, this was the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA founder. Just reading what it says. The Turning Point USA founder at a university event in Utah Valley University. December 2025, Mia Bailey, a trans-identified Muslim, double murder, shot and killed her parents and attempted to kill her brother, also in Utah. Then February 10th, 2026, Jesse Van Rootselaar, a.k.a. Jesse Strang. This, of course, was the killing, horrific killing up in Canada, Tumbler Ridge. Killed mother and 11-year-old stepbrother, and then 6 more. So 8 total victims killed, plus the shooter suicide, multiple injured. And then, of course, this Robert Dorgan of Rhode Island. So that's all from Grok, and I'd had to go through a couple iterations to get that there. I think there's probably a few more though that it didn't get there. Are there any you can think of that we missed?
Yeah, and that's
just in the past 12 months, yes.
Yeah, because we have many before that as well, all over the country. I went to Hannah Nightingale this morning at Post Millennial, and I said, hey, you should update that story that we have about, trans shootings in the U.S. and Canada. And she went through and added some more to it. But there are so many of this. So many of these. There was Audrey Hale in Nashville. There was Anderson Lee Ulrich.
That was 2023. So it wouldn't.
That was 2023.
I was just looking at the last 12 months.
Right, and that's enough. But I'm saying, going back, we have more and more and more. There's Colorado Springs, Lee Aldrich. Yep. There's Colorado Highlands Ranch, Alec McKinney, 2019. There's 2018. Aberdeen, Maryland. I mean, there's a lot of these cases where we see somebody who identifies as trans and then goes on a mass killing spree. And it makes you start to wonder if there could perhaps be a connection between perhaps identifying as trans or the drugs that the people who are trans end up taking. There's the cross-sex hormones, which I don't imagine that a human body reacts well to getting an onslaught, sort of an overdose of cross-sex hormones. I think that really changes a person and it makes things different. Now, I've certainly known plenty of trans people over the years who are not violent, and I understand that, but there does seem to be some sort of correlation, perhaps, if not outright causation, between demanding that people address you according to lies, demanding that people just lie to your face all the time, and engaging in this kind of crazy violence.
Well, of course, what we're talking about here is a per capita issue, and crazy enough, this was the exact question that Charlie Kirk was answering on that campus when when he was killed. He didn't even get a chance to make the argument. You could obviously finish out the argument and defeat Hunter Kozak's idiotic question, because if you remember, and our friend Mary Margaret Olahan over at Daily Wire has a good piece up right now about this this initiative at the DOJ to look at whether or not trans individuals should be allowed to full access to firearms. And Charlie was actually someone who had campaigned against that. And I think I'm probably closer to that category. I think that states should really take a look at this and make a severe and serious discussion about whether or not that should happen. And so Hunter Kozak asks him, well, Charlie, do you know how many trans mass shootings there have been? And then he said, do you know how many mass shootings there have been? And he's going to make this argument. And you could tell what he's leading up to. He's leading up to this, which we've all heard a million times. And he's going to say, well, there's more mass shootings that are committed by non-trans people than the mass shootings committed by trans people. Therefore, your argument doesn't hold water. And of course, the obvious rebuke to what he's saying is we're talking about the per capita issue. And per capita is okay. But when you look at this tiny sliver of the population, I'm sorry, it's probably, unfortunately, I wish that it was less than 1% of the population was trans identified, but unfortunately it's probably bigger than that, but whatever. The point being is this is grossly overrepresented compared to their proportion in the population. And that's, I'm sure, what Charlie was going to respond with, or what he should, obviously, should have and would have responded with had he been given that question. They're vastly overrepresented in these numbers. We know that it is, and again, it has become a pattern. It has become an epidemic that every time one of these things happens, suddenly, and you and I were looking at this yesterday, suddenly there's a local report that says he may have been dressed as a woman, and suddenly the entire story switches up. And Libby, the mainstream media won't even talk about it. They won't even talk about, they won't sit there, the anti-gun crowd, and by the way, where's, what's the, oh my gosh, the CNN kid who went to Harvard and he couldn't get, even though he didn't have the grades.
David Hogg.
Always David Hogg, thank you. Yeah, David Hogg. Come, where are you at, buddy? Where are you at, bro? Where are you at, David Hogg? Where are you at on all this?
It's pretty interesting when you look at
They won't speak about it, will they?
No. And when you look at the same people who are opposed to gun rights in the United States, they are actually pro-trans gun rights. I don't know if David Hogg falls into that category, but NPR certainly does. NPR is an outlet, is far left, and it talks about, how we should have less guns. It backs gun control, every town for gun safety, all the rest of it. But yeah, there are lots of trans gun clubs that have sprung up across the United States, and NPR goes out of their way to detail how awesome they are, and they really boost these clubs and the people who are involved. I know that there's some in Utah and there's some in New Hampshire, and those are just the ones that I've read about. But you're absolutely correct. Mainstream media does not want to talk about these killers being trans. The New York Times reported about the shooting in Rhode Island and said that the individual went by two names. The Washington Post did something similar. ABC, very similar. They're not wanting to say that the person who has committed these acts of mass horrific violence are trans. Now, as soon as they want to have your kids be trans, or talk about social transitioning or how great it is to do sex changes, then they're all over it. This person is trans, that person is trans, and it's all so wonderful. And they talk about the trans representatives like Sarah McBride or Leah Fink or any of the other ones who have been elected.
They'll say there's no connection. They'll say there's no connection. They'll say there's no connection whatsoever. We're not supposed to. It's the same thing they did with radical Islam. And I remember serving at Guantanamo Bay, and I remember when Obama was president, and we were not allowed to even write radical Islam in our reports. And they could sit there, hypothetically, they could sit there and say, yes, we are doing this because of our belief in jihad and radical Islam. Okay, I'll write that down. And then suddenly, oh, no, you just committed a thought crime. You just committed a hate crime. So, well, they said it.
It's the truth.
That's their motivation.
Yes. Well, truth has no place when you have ideology, and these are all outlets and individuals who place their adherence and allegiance to an ideology above the need for truth and facts. And it's why none of them should be trusted at this point. It makes it very hard to read any of these news outlets when you know that they are willing to lie to protect their ideology. And this is a crazy thing. You know, you can talk about these lies, and it's not just that they're lying to us, but they're accepting the lies that are being told to them by perhaps, you know, trans individuals who demand to be called woman. We saw the EU Parliament just adopt a non-binding resolution to send to the UN saying that trans women are women. And that resolution, excuse me, makes absolutely no mention of trans men. It's getting crazier and crazier.
Quick break, right back. Human Events Special, the epidemic of trans violence the past 12 months.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access. Plus, commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, my name's Paul Foyer. I'm Foyer04 in the Getter Chat. I love rap for all the Getter, all the War Room Posse, and all of you guys. Love y'all. Bye.
This is Giselle Chapin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that RAV News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
Jack is a great guy. He's written a fantastic book. Everybody's talking about it. Go get it. And he's been my friend right from the beginning of this whole beautiful event. And we're going to turn it around and make our country great again. Amen.
All right, Jack Posobiec, we're back live here, Human Events Daily. Today is our special, the epidemic of trans violence, the need for spirituality, the need to confront evil and destroy it, the need for Christian spiritual revival in our country. And we're on with Libby Emmons. And Libby, so you and I, we talk about raising our kids. We talk about all the things, outside of all this, because this is obviously something that, hey, we got skin in the game here. We don't want our children falling into this trap at all. And I think there's so many, there's so many parents out there that are worried about this as well, because you hear about it, you hear how horrific it goes, and you also hear how, in many cases, they are trying to push your kids down these roads. And there's something interesting that occurred to me when, so this totally separate, but outside of this conversation, but do you know what book series I'm checking out with my oldest son right now?
No, what is it?
Goosebumps.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. My brother loved those.
Yeah, the old Goosebumps, the old R.L. Stein, just getting into some fun, spooky, Haunted Mask and Horrorland and Night of Living Dummy and all this. And I noticed an interesting theme where in the beginning of pretty much every one of the Goosebumps books, and remember, these are written in the 90s, that it's usually, it could be a pair of sisters, a pair of brothers, a group of friends or something, but they're usually bored and in a small town. Mm-hmm. And being bored in a small town, and they're going around and they're looking for something to do, and they're, and then they come across a store that sells haunted masks, or, that's usually like kind of the setup for each of these. And I realized something that, hold on a second, because I remember you and I were talking the other day about how does someone all the way up in Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia, you're up there in the Canadian Rockies, how does this person become so far left, so virulently with that ideology? Is that through technology and through the internet, constant connectivity, we've removed that whole world of just being bored as a kid. There is no being bored as a kid with your friends anymore. It doesn't exist. There is no being bored with a kid. And there are scenes where the kids are just kind of walking around. And it happens in a number of the books where they walk around, they look for other kids in town. They say, we get some baseball going, or maybe some kickball, or find out what's going on. That whole universe doesn't exist anymore. And what's replaced it? The internet, Reddit, Discord, Tumblr. And what do they find there? They find all of the groomers. And so do you see what I'm getting at here? Do you see where I'm going with all of this? How that was a common experience, but I'm reading them to my kids and thinking, I don't know if they have this experience as much. Now, my kids, of course, by the way, do not get a lot of screen time at all. But it's true that for the vast majority, I think, out there, it was just a different world in the 90s.
Yeah, it really was. I used to go wandering around.
Pre-internet. In the pre-internet world, it was all different.
Yeah. Or even just dial-up when you couldn't do a lot of stuff, and you just had like AOL chat or whatever. But when...
I would even go so far as to say pre-smartphone. The pre-smartphone era. Because then the internet didn't come with you. It didn't come with you, wherever you were. It wasn't in your pocket. It was something at home. You could check it out. But then when you were out, and you were just out.
Yeah, and you'd be out with your friends. I think that's a really key thing to say, right? Is that, our kids are not bored like they used to be. When I was a kid, I would go wandering around in the woods looking for arrowheads in the woods of Massachusetts, and that's what we did for fun. We'd make up stories. We'd make up all kinds of things about what was going on where we were. We'd go for bike rides, these endless bike rides. It would be very big to go stop at the Myettes General Store and pick up gobstoppers and things, and that was my favorite. But yeah, this is what we did. We would get bored. We would say to our friends, what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? And we'd go on like that for hours trying to figure out what our parents would let us do. And then we just go wander around. I think that's a really big thing. And I think that it's really sad that so many of these kids don't have that opportunity. And the trans stuff has really migrated, right? It's all across the country. It's not isolated. It's not just in big cities. This ideology has permeated and it festers in all of the schools across the country, from the littlest towns to the biggest cities. And people need to remember, not to let their kids just go crazy on the internet all the time. You think that your kids are being quiet, and parents are happy when their kids are quiet and not running around and breaking stuff. But I think it's much better to let your kids run around, even if they break stuff, so long as they're not breaking themselves and their own psyches.
Yeah, actually, Tanya and I, it was funny because we got the kids for Christmas these magnetic blocks that they just love so much, and they're constantly building little houses and castles and
those are the
all
best.
Sorts of different things with these things.
Yeah,
they're constantly into it, and there'll be times
are the best.
Where I'll admit, I'll get home and I'm like, oh, I want to show some movie to the kids or do something, and we put on Princess Bride for them the other day because it was like, well, it's a movie about true love. It was Valentine's weekend, and we were trying to introduce that. We've shown it to them, but when they were smaller, so I don't think they really remember it. And they were just so into the blocks that I couldn't get them away from it. And I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what? Don't push it on them. Don't push it on them. Let them play with the blocks. Let them be stimulated. Let them use their imaginations, right, to imagine that it's a castle and there are secret doors and all of these things, because that's something you're creating with your own mind that you are actually actively using your cognitive skills for, rather than having some flashing screen input them and imbue them on you. And so, look, this can be done. And, we live in a different world in many cases, but Charlie just wrote a whole book about it. It's the book that's out about Stop in the Name of God. And, think about that for your kids too. And think about that from the sense of, do I really want to park them in front of the TV all day? Or do I want to just let them figure out something fun to do? I don't know. You're a mom. What's your sense on that?
Yeah, I just want them to go figure out something fun to do. And even now, my son's a teenager, and I'm always like, can I drive you to your friend's house? Do you want your friends to come over? Is there something I can do where you could go do stuff with other people? I'm constantly trying to push him into being, and he's a social kid, right? But I'm just like, do more stuff with your friends, instead of talking to them online. Go see them in person. But it's not easy for them to all get together, in part because I think so many parents, now I'm an older parent when it comes to kids my son's age. I'm like, as old as their grandparents or something. I don't know what's going on, but these parents are in their 20s or something, 20s, 30s. And so they are, more helicopter parent style than I am. And there's a lot more limitations on kids. And I think parents are limiting kids in the wrong way. You want to limit kids on screen time. You want to limit kids on watching TV and all of that kind of stuff. Where you don't want to have to limit them is in social time. You don't want to limit their time outdoors. And parents need to relax on a lot of the things and then tighten up where it's important. And parents, I think, need to know that. They don't do that as much, certainly, as they used to. I know my stepmom used to say Saturday morning, after my chores were done, she'd be like, all right, get out the house. I don't want to see you till sunset. And I'd be like, okay, I'll see you later. And parents aren't like that now. They're much more restrictive on what kids are doing. And if they can see their kids sitting there in their room looking at TV or looking at their phone, they figure their kid is safe because they're limiting them on all the wrong things.
No, that's exactly right. Libby Emmons, where can people go to get your new podcast?
You can check out my new podcast. It's called The Pod Millennial. This week we had Drea DeMatteo on. We had a fascinating conversation, and I'd love you to go check that out. You can find all of the links to Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere else at thepodmillennial.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay ashore.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access. Plus, commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play. At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of the